Hi, this is Drew Tignanelli. It's 2025. We're actually recording this in 2025 because, Mikey, you had too much celebration in those Christmas season.
Yeah, I just didn't have it on the calendar, and it slipped our minds for a couple of days, and but here we are.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that we hadn't done it until I saw it show up on my calendar for today.
Yeah,
So anyway, the U.S. stock market did quite well again last year, 2 years in a row. Hadn't done this since 1998, which is good news, and that's it's a great period of time, the late 1990s. The bad news, though, is that you got to be careful that you don't overinterpret that because the US market's done well, that it's going to continue to do well for the next umpteen years. It
yeah.
just doesn't work like that. Matter of fact,
Sometimes,
just a year after 1998, 2000 started a 50% downturn, 2000, 2001, and 2002, that the US stock market did not return to new highs until 2014 or 15. And that's a good 14 or 15 year long period of time you had to wait.
yeah,
So markets do this. That's
markets
what that the point is.
markets do
Nope.
this, but we can never look perfectly to the history and say everything's going to play out the same way. The As we're about to talk about, the economy's in a lot different shape than it was in 1998.
Sure, but the point is that diversification, the markets that haven't done as well, the international markets, the small cap markets, their valuations are extremely reasonable. This is why asset allocation is important, that you have some money invested in the US large cap that's been doing exceptionally well, but the international markets and the small caps have not done nearly as well. And if it was that international and small cap exposure that helped your portfolio make it through that 14-year period of time when the S&P 500 did not return a significant. That's the way markets work, Mike. That's the point we're trying to make here.
Yep,
Don't chase
absolutely.
return just because I get people saying this to me all the time. We should get out of international totally.
Put it
And I'm
all in
like,
the NVIDIA.
well, it's yes, and put everything in NVIDIA
NVIDIA.
or the S&P 500 because that's the only market that goes up. Well, that may be true for the last 5 or 6 years, but that's not true in history. You go through long periods of time of outperformance in one market versus another. It's what we call return. What's it? How can I not? Re,
Well, I'll move on to just talk about, a different market that's been struggling is the bond market. Um, you know, because we've got continued risk of higher interest rates.
Yeah, well, the bond market hasn't been, in good shape. We had a situation where interest rates went down to zero, literally, but those were abnormal interest rates. And in the 1980s, when interest rates went up to 15, 16%, those were abnormal. The normal interest rate, Mike, is between 3% and 6%.
Right.
That's the typical range the U.S. interest rate have hovered in for 100 years.
Yeah.
And
You're referring to the Federal Reserve rate, which basically all other rates are kind of set off of.
well, I'm referring to the general range, the short-term rate of 3% up to the higher end of 6%. That's a normal range for the United States bond market, and we're sort of getting back to that. We're not there yet, but we're sort of getting back to that. And you have to expect that interest rates are not going back down to 2, 3%. Matter of fact, what are mortgage rates are 7%
Um,
today, almost back to their high.
and
Um,
surprisingly, it hasn't really done anything to the housing market pricing. Pricing has stayed high.
right. Reversion to the mean.
Reversion to the mean. Oh, okay.
That's what I was trying to say a little while ago. When the one market takes off and does exceptionally well for a period of time, the other one doesn't, you get a reversion to the mean somewhere along the way. and all of a sudden these markets do exceptionally well and this one doesn't do as well. That's the typical stock market. Anyway,
And it can be a long
reversion to
period of time for that reversion of the mean to occur. And it can be a short period. You never know.
it could take years until you start getting that reversion of the mean, But anyway, it is what it is. Inflation is finally coming more under control, but I think it's more like the 1990s inflation as opposed to the last 10 years of inflation. Last 10 years has been virtually zero, 1%, something like that. But in the 1990s, our typical, the Fed wants 2% inflation, right? That's their goal. And you know as well as I do, they're not going to get just 2%. It's
Right.
not something that you just you punch buttons in and you say 2%, boom, 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 and it comes out 2%.
Yeah.
Now,
On average, it's going to be on the higher side.
in the 90s, it was typically on the higher side, and that's what you would expect. You'd expect a little overshoot of inflation. And that's what seems to be what's happening, except the investors still think we're in the last 10 years where we're going to go back to that 1-2% range. I just don't see that happening, me personally, unless something unique happens again, like COVID in 2020. Who would have expected COVID in 2020? You know?
Absolutely. But, to round out our ton of talk of the economy, the other piece of it is the labor market. And the labor market's, still strong. You know, that's still doing quite well, despite a lot of kind of predictions that it would do poorly.
I've heard that for years, and since the Fed started to raise rates, that the labor market was going to get crushed, and so far it hasn't. So anyway, that's good news.
Yeah,
We could put more money in our 401k this year.
absolutely. Yeah, we can do 23,500 if you're below 50. If you're above 50, you can get there to 31,000. And then if you're between 60 and 63, you can put in 11,000. No, what is that? Uh,
11,250 catch up.
Catch up.
That's extra. So that makes it $34,750 if you're between 60 and 63. I have no idea how to explain that other than that's the new law. So for 4 years, you can put in an extra.
I get it. So if it's you're over 50, but you're not 60 to 63, you do 31, 23.5 plus whatever to catch up. But if it's 60 to
7,500.
63, it's the 23.5 plus the 11,250 to get you to 34,750.
That is correct.
I had a
Isn't
look
that?
of confusion for a moment. I couldn't figure out how 31,000 plus 11,250 wasn't more than 34.
It's just the catch up for people over 50 is 7,500. But when you're those four specific years, 60, 61, 62, and 63, and don't ask me why, I have no idea why, your catch up goes from 7,500 to 11,250.
Some
And
congressperson or senator wanted to put their name on a bill and said they did something for seniors.
it's that's an extra $16,000 in those 4 years. I mean, like, really? Anyway, it is what it is. IRAs still $8,000 if you're over 50, only 7,000 if you're under 50. Roth IRAs, traditional, and for the people under 50, we're typically talking about children of our clients. And you got grandchildren or children that are making some money at 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 throughout college. They're making a few $1,000s. If you have the money to do it, fund those Roth IRAs for those grandchildren. It's
A
an
wonderful Christmas
incredible,
gift.
it's an incredible economic advantage. $1,000 over 40 or 50 years tax free, just $1,000 could grow into a considerable sum of money in 50
Absolutely.
years.
Absolutely.
I
So,
can do the calculation for you if you'd like, Mike.
sure. So,
Anyway,
So health savings accounts, that's if you have a high deductible health plan with your employer or individually, and you're able to put money into an account tax free that you're able to take out tax free for health expenses. It's 4,300 single, 8,550 for a family, and then there's a $1,000 catch up. It would be at 50, right, Drew?
Yes.
No,
And
I was
five.
tricking you. 55, because
I
they got to
said the
make it
five.
complicated. They can't use the same criteria. They got to make, let's make the HSAs 55 instead of 50. So for 55, you can do that 1,000 catch up for a total of 5,300 and 9,550 respectively. And then if you got to, go ahead.
You know, and again, why 55? Why not 50? You know, you ever wonder why 59 and a half? I've never figured out 59 and a half, you know?
How about, a lot of our clients over the past month got some extra emails from us, and, we're talking about the government and how much logic they make.
Yeah.
Through that whole business information
Ownership
filing,
interest,
business ownership,
BOI,
they changed the rules on us
4 times.
4 times, and like three of those times was within like 2 days.
Yes.
So
I mean,
let's not try to make sense out of
our
government.
clients' were heads were spinning while we were sending those emails out. You know, oh, we got to do it. We got only until the 1st. Oh, we got until the 13th. Oh, we don't have to do it anymore. We
Yeah.
look like fools, yet the
Yeah.
government just sits back and acts like, you know, we're here, we're large and in charge. Yeah. Anyway, don't get us
So
started.
speaking of the government, it's time to pay them.
Tax time.
Tax season.
We will be sending out a letter about tax preparation. We'll also be sending a video out on that. But now's the time for you to get prepared for tax season, and you can help us help you. When you help us get your information as soon as possible, and you take that time, and it really doesn't take that much time. Matter of fact, if you do your record keeping right during the course of the year, you should just be able to click and boom, you know everything that you need to know. That's the way I do it. I mean, I keep
Yeah.
everything
Keep my little
in
folder for the next
in
year's tax.
Quicken, or I have a folder and I just go to my folder, or I just hit click and boom, everything I need to know is right there. It shouldn't take a long, long time.
And they'll get a survey, and completing that survey accurately and completely is really, really important to us. It helps us.
It's not only really important, but it's mandatory. We can't do your tax return without that survey done. We're going to come back to you and say, "Hey, you didn't do the survey. Can you do the survey for us?" You know, so just do the survey when we send it out.
So, Drew, a lot of people think because it's now January 3rd as we're shooting this video that, tax planning opportunities for 2024, those are done, right? There's nothing left to do.
No, we still have things we can do between now and April 15th, And if we don't have your information, we will not be able to assess that. And we need that information before, let's call it April 10th, so that we're not in that last few days of rush and makes it more difficult to pick up on everything that we need to pick up on. The tax laws are becoming incredibly complicated, and they thrust us into a very short period of time that we have to get all the analysis done. You can help us help you by getting your information to us as soon as possible so that we can correctly assess anything that you can do between now and April 15th.
Yep. So, Drew, you wrote the book, The Financial Physical. In there, you kind of talk about the financial industry and the insurance industry doesn't always have everyone's best interest in mind when they are promoting a product, right?
That's true. And there's all kinds of other organizations that promote stuff and they use fear and greed. But right now, the big one, Mike, is title lock insurance. They're making you fear that you're going to lose your house to somebody who fraudulently changes your deed to their name. The chances of that are relatively slim. The Federal Trade Commission and the Maryland Attorney General, where most of our clients are located in Maryland, have both come out and said title lock insurance is more of a consumer fear tactic
Yeah.
than it is something that you need to be worried about.
Yeah, so let's first tell everybody what it is. So title lock insurance. You would assume from the name that this is something you can lock your title down with and an insurance policy that would cover you if anything happened. It is not a lock. It doesn't do anything to lock your title. And there's no insurance. It doesn't pay you anything under any circumstances. The only thing it does is send you a notification if there's a change made to the title of your property. But the thing is, like, you're going to see that other places. There's better opportunities to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, but it's highly unlikely
And it's
that it
highly
would ever
unlikely.
happen anyway.
Yeah.
But if you get your mail, if you you know lock your credit bureau accounts down, if you monitor your credit reports once a year, some simple things that doesn't take a lot of effort, your chances of anyone ever stealing your title from you is infinitesimal as to how slim a chance it would be.
Yeah, they say, well, I mean, in the very rare instance this happens, one of the things to look out for is your utility bill stops coming.
Yeah, but again, it's if you get your mail, if you live in your house, that's another one too. Typically, fraud insurance is from places like down in southern Florida near Miami, where foreign nationals own the house. They're rarely, okay, no one's really getting the mail, and somebody goes into the house and then starts working on the title when nobody's paying attention to anything, you
Right.
know?
You know, and you
So,
talked about locking your credit. One of the easiest things to do is to create an account at all four of the major credit bureaus. You don't have to pay anything. They're gonna try to sell you stuff too. But you just keep saying, no, I'll keep my free membership or I'll keep my free subscription. And then
yeah,
they'll frequently send you notifications about changes to your credit score, changes into your credit report.
almost anything. Yeah. And so it's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Those are the three big ones that you should have an account with, a username and password, and be able to log in at any time. Mike, we have a couple articles and webinars too. So why don't you
Absolutely.
tell people about the webinar?
So the webinar that's coming out is top 10 things to do before you retire in 2025.
Yeah. And who's doing that?
I don't know.
Oh, so somebody from our company is doing it, and
I
and
wrote
it'll be
down what
a
its
good one.
name was. I'm sorry.
It'll be a good one too,
It'll be a
whoever
good one.
does it.
Keep an eye on your email. If make sure that if you're watching these videos that you've got your email in our system, so they're sending those out to you. And then
And you can
somebody
get
wrote a pretty
that
nice article, didn't they?
right. And the new article coming out is what's it called again?
Retirement can be great or miserable.
Your retirement can be great or miserable. I wrote it. I can't even remember the title of it because I wrote it about a month and a half ago. And but it's about, making sure that you don't just play in retirement, you find fulfillment in retirement and how to find fulfillment in retirement. That's what the article's about. You can get all these things on our Knowledge Center on Financial Consulate. That's like an embassy, consulate.com, the Knowledge Center, right up here in the top right corner, Knowledge Center. You can get videos, you can get articles, you can get the Pulse that we're doing here, and you
Yeah.
can get old radio shows. Every single radio show that we've been doing is saved there somewhere, and it even gives you an outline of what questions we answered during each of those radio shows. So there's a lot of information on the Knowledge Center. You should feel free to go there and explore that if you want more education on personal finance.
Yeah. Well, Happy New Year, Drew.
And a happy new year to Mike. I pray incredible blessings on all of us here for 2025 and look forward to seeing you in February. This is Drew Tignanelli saying God bless.